Check if we're live. Let's have a little look. What's the subject today?
Oh, boring today.
Nice, not boring. Right, let's check if we're live. We all good? Let's wait for a few people to come on. I will do the old default. We're checking if we're live. Yep, great stuff. I can see we are live. Great. Who's going to be first to comment
Awesome,
today?
that's weird. Mine hasn't shown me. Yours is normally
Really?
always behind mine.
That is really interesting. Let's have a little look then. Who is on? Let's drop in the comments then, guys. If you've joined us, always good to see whichever trekkers are here.
Laura Twist.
Laura, hey, how you doing, Laura? Hope all is well. Who we got? We got Dan. We got Mike, Angus, Andy, Howie. How you doing? Nice to see you on.
Everybody.
We got Chris. 74 days to go, Chris. Wow, mate, it's not long at all. Mark Viggers, great to have you all on.
Hang on, we got two Marky V's now, Mark Van Rossum and Mark Viggers. But I think
this came up before, right?
Did it? I think, to be fair, Van Rossum is the original, the OG Marky V. So I might have to come up with another one for Viggers.
I know. I think Marky V, as always said, there's only one Marky V.
Yeah,
I feel like it's bad if we pass that baton on to anyone else. But good to see Pratesh. Bri, how you doing, Bri? I hope all is well. Nice to see you not running for a change. Keita, there's only one. We got Dan. Great stuff. Great to see so many of you on as well. And obviously because you want to hear about boots, right? Obviously. It's always really popular. It doesn't matter what we do. We can talk about mindset. We can talk about fitness. We can talk about anything. But whenever we talk about boots, it always seems to be more popular.
Something about it.
Something about it.
But Viggs will be acceptable, by the way, for Viggers. Okay,
we're getting the
we got
the nicknames
Marky Viggs or Viggs.
Hey Jerome, how you doing? Great stuff. Jerome is checking in, and so Boots Dave. I mean, as always, we like to kind of think about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't always been the case.
Well, I think like
for this time,
boots. I think that it's the soul of trekking.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll take that one on the chin.
Yeah.
This early in.
Yeah, this early
okay.
in. Yeah, you're all right with that one?
It takes a little bit of warming up sometimes. And,
yes.
One step at a time is probably...
no, that's fine. I mean, well, I'm sure you'll heal eventually after that.
Wow. Well, look, I'm sure you didn't join us to hear about jokes, but no, we wanted to talk about boots and kind of the 5 things to consider really when buying boots, because it can be a big purchase. You know, you go into somewhere like Cotswold Outdoor or Go Outdoors, whatever you're going to buy your boots from. You want to know what you're buying and how to choose the right ones for you.
I'm getting abuse. That was bad. Shocking.
Almost sound rehearsed.
Honestly, that wasn't rehearsed. That's just
this is just how we chat on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. Like we love a good pun war, don't we?
We do like a good pun war. I feel like years ago, it was more me than you. And then I think you joined in, and then it's more you than me these days.
I had to learn how to fight fire with fire.
You did.
I wasn't a punner, and now
you are.
Now I had to.
You
have to compete.
You've come over to the dark side, Dave.
Exactly.
So back to boots. There are some big things you want to consider because big outlay, important as well because you got to look after your feet, especially on a multi-day trek. Whether you're doing just a weekender like Tube Cal, or whether you're doing, like a 19, 20-day trek in the Himalayas, they're important. Yeah. And, there's different things that we're going to go into today around, what we think are important for buying boots. Because there's one, I think the big thing is that there's so many different types of boots, right? It's absolutely crazy.
I've tried to find that one pair of almost sort of the quiver killer boot. And actually, I'm not entirely certain it really exists.
Yeah.
I mean, I land on a boot and I love it for a while, and then I don't know why, but then something changes, and then I try another one, and then I don't like it, and another one, and I don't like it, and then another one, and I love it. So it is trial and error. It's a tricky thing to get right because obviously once you've bought the boot and you've gone out and done a trek in it, you can't really return it. So there's a lot of pressure on you to kind of get it right. So hopefully what we're going to do is talk about some of the things that we consider, the top 5 things that we consider when we're buying a boot, and how we kind of aim to get it right first time.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's trial by error, but you want to if you can get it right the first time, and okay, if you don't, you've got a spare pair of boots lying around. I mean, just for a bit of context, I mean, I think I was asked the other day, like, how many pairs of boots have I got? and I think I've got about 9 pair of boots hanging around the house somewhere. Now, obviously, they're not all trekking boots. Some of them are mountaineering boots. Some of them are my boots for a Saturday night. No, some of them are, specific boots for specific purposes. But I'd say I've probably got 6, I would say, trekking boots.
Yeah.
That over the years I've kind of, like back in the day, I remember the first time I went to Everest Base Camp, I used North Face.
Yeah.
The North Face Hedgehog GTX. They don't make as many anymore, so stock issues are hard. But still a classic boot. I did base camp 3 times with that boot before the sole wore down. And sometimes you've got to kind of look at that as well, like the longevity, because if you're spending, say, £200 on a pair of boots, you want to make sure that, they're lasting for some time. And there's different, Dave talked about sole earlier, but there are different soles. You've got your Vibrams, you've got your Conta grips, you've got your Michelins. Sometimes it's like choosing a car tire. It is, isn't it? What boots am I getting? Literally, what was it in Formula One? They say, what boots do they got on the car?
Exactly. True, yeah. I mean, and it kind of brings us on to kind of the first thing to kind of consider when I'm buying a pair of boots. And like you, the thing is, it always depends on the boot as well. So you can have these categories, but then when you're trying the boot, you kind of need to understand, first of all, like, what are you going to be doing in the boot? There's lots of things to consider, but I think the first and most important thing, probably the first thing on both our lists.
You haven't seen my list yet, have you?
I haven't seen your list yet,
but I've seen yours.
And even if I did see yours,
and you would be right,
it's often hard. But we're going to talk about the first thing we always consider. You've been doing it since you were a kid. When you go in and you put your feet on the slider and they measure your feet, it's all about fit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fit with boots, we're not always just talking about 10.5 or 11.5, 9.5, whatever. There's a lot of things to consider with a hiking boot, because you're not just kind of tootling around town and stuff like that. You're on your feet for hours and hours and hours at a time. In hot weather and altitude, your feet can swell. There's a lot of talk about people say you should go a size up, or some people say you shouldn't.
Yeah, you do hear that quite a lot.
Exactly. So how do you know what boot is right for you? And I honestly think that there's 2 things to consider. One of them is, what are you going to be using the boot for? But generally speaking, I'll always go for my size.
So the size you would buy like a normal pair?
Yeah. Okay. I'm a 10.5 on the nose.
Okay.
Nice. And if I go and buy, and I've tried this, and a couple of different boots I've bought, I've gone for 11s.
Yeah.
And I found that I've had a little bit of difficulty with the extra size.
Well, there's too much space, or maybe
a little too much space at the end.
Okay.
So what happens is when you're going downhill, particularly, if I use Tupcal for an example, it's very steep.
Yeah.
And on the way down, if you're in dry weather and there's no snow, it's quite slippery. So you want a good sturdy foot. Every time you put your foot down, you don't want your foot to move in the boot.
Yeah, nice.
I did it in a pair of boots the first time that were half a size too big, and every single step, my toes were like just knocking the edge.
Okay.
And after a descent of Tupcal,
which is quite a lot.
That's
which is a biggie.
That's horrendous.
Yeah. I suppose you're right, and the thing is with fit as well, and a couple of things we want to bring to the table is that you like Dave said, you've got your size, but I think one thing we've learned, certainly from like the Evertrekker community, which has grown over the last few years, is that some of the boots that we recommend aren't always for everyone, because not only are you looking at the kind of fit, the kind of natural, the 10.5s, I'm a 9. Is that of how wide they are, because some people's feet are wider than others. We're all different. Although some of us have the same boots, some of us have slightly wider feet, and that could be a pain on a long trek. Like for myself as well, something I need to think about is that I've got quite flat feet. I haven't really got much of an arch. So something regarding fit as well is that I need to put an insole in to make it more comfortable for me. Otherwise, an hour or 2 into a hike, it can hurt. And you don't want to be thinking about that stuff when you're trying to think, or you're trying to enjoy it, and you're trying to make the most of being in the outdoors. So getting fit, and we may, and again, I know some of the stuff we've talked about this before. So you don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is like the number one really is getting that right. And it's hard though, isn't it? Because lots of the purchases we all make are online these days. I know if we've all got a bit of spare time, we'll go out and we'll look in store and maybe try some on. And we always do recommend that. But still, I mean, you just got to look at the numbers. Like 60-70% of people buy their boots online.
Yeah.
How do we get around that? How do we get around this?
Honestly, that's probably the biggest obstacle these days is when you go into a store, and I do find it because maybe I'm a product of kind of the instant gratification generation or whatever, but I love the idea of going to a store. There's the boots I want. I can try on multiple pairs. They work. Let's go.
Yeah.
Very rarely works like that now. So you've got to do a bit of prep and a bit of groundwork. First thing to do is sometimes you can go outdoors. You can, at least you used to be able to do this.
Yeah.
You could order them in just without paying, and then you pay in store. So I used to order like 2 or 3 pairs.
And try them in the house.
Try them on.
Nice.
And then buy the ones that I liked. I'm not sure if that's still the case now, but when you're buying them online, and one of the things is that I found it's not a exact stress test, but buy a pair, try them on. If they feel okay and you're like, there or thereabouts, leave the tags on and wear them indoors for like, I don't know, a day or two.
Around the office or something, somewhere that doesn't get the dirt on them as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then you can potentially send them back. It's a little more difficult if you're buying sort of leather boots, because you do get the creases in them and stuff like that, and they become obviously worn. So those type of things, if I was buying a leather boot, I'd be more inclined to go in, find a place that has it in stock, try it, and then run the gamble of being on the exchange train. So they work, send them back. They work, send them back. But honestly, I really do think that, like for Andy, you said about like the flat feet. I think I've got flat feet, but if I feel too much of an arch, it bothers me. Like I feel like it's hurting the underside of my foot.
It's like earlier this season, I say this year, I was skiing, and I know ski boots do take a little bit of wearing in. And I had the same ski boots for like 5 years, had a new pair of boots, worn them around the house and everything, but it's the first time you're on the slopes. I could feel that arch really digging in. I was in agony for about an hour and a half.
Well, I remember
until you just get over it.
seeing you the next day, and you were like, I had to just ski and basically
loose, just loose,
to kind of just so you have that freedom of movement, so you could adjust. Yeah, it is tricky. But one of the things to consider, like Andy said, it's not just like 10.5, 9, whatever works for you. It's also the feel of the boot as well when we talk about fit. So generally speaking, when I put my feet in, I like to get that kind of, it's hard to describe, but some people call it like the locked in feel. But when you put my heels in, I like that it's almost like you're clipped in, it's like that.
So even at the back as well.
So I just like it. I like it to be not too tight. You don't want it to feel like it's tight. But you just want to feel like you put your feet in and it's like, right, good.
Ready to go.
I kind of get that feel. But if, however, I try them on and I can feel a bit of the boot pushing against my toe, or I can feel something pushing against my heel, generally speaking, that's a no-go. I'll put the boots on the shelf and I'll try something different.
And that's because you don't want it to move and wear, and that's where you get blisters and warm points, right?
If you can feel any sort of uneven pressure when you try the boot on, sometimes you need to wear your boots in, right? But generally speaking, that involves a lot of blistering and time and effort. Almost all good boots now are kind of ready to go off the shelf. So if you feel a bit of undue pressure, almost certainly probably they are a little bit too stiff for you. They don't fit for you, and you're going to end up with sort of trouble. Is Samantha right? I used to work with Sam. Hey, Sam, how's it going? I haven't seen Sam in years.
She knows the right namaste.
Namaste. She knows.
Some great comments as well coming in. We will get to your questions. Some really good ones. Keep them coming as well. Like Laura Dewi. Thanks for the mammoth flat foot. I'll have to. I have flat feet and swear by these, mate. I'll definitely check them out, Dewi. I hope all is well. Nice to see you on the live. Some great comments as well. We will come these. I know Jerome's asked about laces. Emily's mentioned Klarna as well. Really good. I know that's becoming more of a thing now. Using Klarna, using some form of, I think there's other platforms out there that allow you to
any pay in 3 generally, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes if you multi-purchase, you can get it longer. Just to again try out and try and get your value for money, because it can be a big outlay. And again, Emily's asked about boots, Swile and Peak as well. Yeah, definitely, mate. We'll be coming on to that.
100%.
So fit then. I mean, there's a lot that goes into fit. Because also as well, if you go into a place like Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro, K2 Base Camp, you don't just put the average sock on. You need a decent size sock as well. And that needs to be taken into account, right?
100%. Good point. Is that when you actually go to try these boots on, don't go with your average everyday sock on and stuff like that, because they're generally, your average day sock that you'd wear out to the office or wherever you go is probably thinner than like an ultra lightweight hiking sock. So generally what I do is I put on a mid sock
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
which
nice.
is
Yeah,
which
that's
is
a
the
good idea.
ones that I hike in 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And if it's comfortable with that sock on, then you know you pretty much know you're in the right ballpark. If you get a thick one on, it might be a little bit tighter, but you know, most of the time, if the fit's right, I can put up with that if my feet are warm. If I need the sock, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Nice.
So generally speaking, that's how I
That's how you do it. Yeah, I think myself. I think knowing, you know, whenever you go to these stores, you know, especially like we obviously Cotswold Outdoor, one of our partners, and we're there and they're kind of measuring your feet and they're looking at it. You know, it's generally with a kind of sock that you're going to use for that particular boot.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, not saying you wear, like, I'm going to say Maindel Boutans because I wore those on the weekend. You know, I don't wear them necessarily around the office, but I know when I do wear them, even like on what was it, Saturday morning we went out. And, you know, I'll still wear a hefty sock, even though it's not winter, but I know the fit's right. And that's fine. I can get away with that because I don't sweat that much.
Yeah.
And I know that's different for everyone, Dave, but again, it's to think about the type of socks you're going to use when you're wearing them.
Yeah, well, I like to wear the merino wool hiking socks. Because if like generally speaking, if you suffer with like really, really sweaty feet, a lot of the time you're going to want to put a lot of thought into kind of the sock that you use. I'm actually not too bad in that department, but they are breathable, they are soft, they really do help prevent blisters. They don't move around. So if your foot does move around, if you've got a coarse sock, like I remember I had a set of Brashers, right? Make Brasher socks.
Yeah, I've used them.
And they were like this tough sort of hardcore sock, and you put it on and it's like if it moves back and forth, it tore my feet up like pretty bad.
Nice. Just reading some of the comments. Bingo. Lee, hey Lee, how you doing? Nice to see you on again. I use 1,000-mile socks most of the time. Yeah, I've used them. Very, very good. Definitely, again, you can kind of supplement a good boot with a decent pair of socks. So fit then, I think on my list, something I've got, I think I'm not sure it's on yours, is around the weather, and that means that, you know, if you're going and taking on a particular type of trek, if you're, say you're going to Island Peak, say you're going to Aconcagua, say you're going to Toubkal in winter, you could be on one of the winter skills courses that we run in Scotland. And knowing the boot that you're going to be using what time of year you're going to be using that in is key to also when you're going to buy those boots. And I think Emily was asking around, you know, Island Peak, and do I use B2s, B3s? And I think it's important because you want to kind of make sure that it's suitable for the weather that you're going to be going for. And that can be not just the kind of, because you look at the time of year, but also how the boot is made up, because certain boots are better than others. Like some are built for breathability, so they're not as waterproof, they're not as warm, whereas some are like quite bomb-proof. You know, exactly. Which will keep water out, snow, ice, and everything. So I think it's good to kind of have that in the mix.
Yeah, no, 100%.
When you look at these boots.
Also on my list, so I've got Purpose Stain.
Purpose, okay, so similar.
Similar things.
Nice.
So I've got winter, hot, dry, wet. You know, that is important, and often as well, you know, we do all wish that we could have that one pair of boots that is, you know, the one boot to
rule them all.
Yeah, exactly, the quiver killer of boots. But if you're getting more into the mountains and you're doing more and more things, like Andy said, you know, winter mountaineering in Scotland, but you're also going to be doing summer training in Brecon, and then you're going to be doing Kilimanjaro in February, but you're going to do Island Peak in May. You know, often you're going to have to kind of look at different types of boots. And that can range from ultra lightweight, spongy hiking boots, like you can get the Hoka hiking boot.
Which are really comfortable.
Really comfortable, but super flexible. No crampon would really be suitable for them. And
not waterproof, really.
Not the best.
Not the best,
But, you know, if I was doing like one of these, you know, these 50, 100K challenges, and I would say they'd be perfect for that because they will stop your feet from aching. However, on the other extreme, you've got, say, Aconcagua, you know, which you're going to need a 2-layer boot, which is ultra stiff, B3 combined with a C3 crampon. You will not be able to bend that sole an inch. So there is a broad range of things that you're going to need to consider. So from the lightweight, breathable, spongy to the dual layer, super warm, super technical, super stiff.
Excuse me. My what Jerome said there, choosing boots is easy if you're married. My wife tells me these are good price. You will wear them. That's a nice, Jerome. Nice. Well, you know your wife, mate. So if she thinks they're a good price and a good fit, then you're in.
Yeah, I've just realised as well that I mistook that Samantha for a different friend.
Oh, okay.
It was because of the picture of the dog.
I wonder what you were doing there. You were like,
yeah. I just realised. I thought I think I might have confused her by saying we used to work together because I don't think.
Sorry, Samantha.
I actually don't think it's her. I think it's someone else.
Hey Tina, great to see you on as well. Have we had bingo yet? Ooh, I think so. I think we've certainly had. We need to bring that back, by the way. That was great back in the day, the days of 2020, 2021.
I think Jerome has called it.
He has.
One other thing I wanted to just circle back, just a little bit quickly to fix. I've just realised something that I always do.
Yeah.
Is I replace the insoles with my boots with one that I know that absolutely worked for me. Yeah. See, Samantha's like, I haven't worked for you.
Sam. Thank God.
She wanted to be. She was like, I thought, I wanted to be polite and not call him out when he said it. It's because of the dog. I know, but anyway, the dog's lovely. Is that a spaniel breed? Yeah, I love a spaniel.
Yeah, I think it is.
Anyway, yeah, I always buy an insole. I like the Superfeet Trailblazer insole. They're perfect.
Yeah,
they're purpose designed for trekking. They are a little expensive. You're looking at like £48, I think, 40 to £48 for just an insole.
Yeah.
And when you look at them, a lot of people look at their insoles and they do that kind of squeeze test. They want to feel how soft and spongy they are.
Yeah.
But that's not actually the key to comfort. The key to comfort is stability. And making sure that your foot doesn't move around too much.
Yeah.
When I have these on, honest to God, they were a life changer for me going downhill. They really do make a big difference.
Yeah, sorry, I was scouring through there because I think someone had asked about insoles. I think it was Jerome actually who asked about insole recommendations. So was it Superfeet?
The Superfeet Trailblazer insole.
Yeah. There are many, again, different, but these are the ones we personally use.
They're a little bit weird with the sizing. Rather than just bringing out an insole that fits like a shoe size, they're like, their sizes go like A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah. And you need to like figure out which size matches yours. And then you have to cut them to size. So generally speaking, buy a pair of boots, whip out the insole, use one as a template, cut around it, put it back in. And I've got them in 3 pairs of my boots. So quite a big investment for me. Yeah,
well, that's it. But if they work, they work. And Marky V mentioned there, like tried the Maindel Boutans, which we recommend a lot for a lot of
amazing.
They're good all rounder. They are a bit big. They do. The first time you put them on, they're a bit like moon boots, but like I'm used to them now.
You see, I think they're too tight.
Is that the reason?
Fit? That's the reason why I've switched. I bought the Maindel Boutans on the recommendation of some Evertrekkers on the training weekend.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And then when I tried them, I loved them. But do you know what? They never once gave me a blister. I never once felt like they were uncomfortable. But when I first put them on, for the first 10 minutes or so, I kind of feel like they're a bit tight. They have got a memory foam system in there, which is called the Maindel Boutan MFS, which is the memory foam system.
Okay.
So I think that's the purpose.
Yeah.
But I just wondered whether or not are they a bit tight for me. So I tried to buy a Maindel boot, which is the equivalent of the Boutan. I forget the name, but it's the wide fit version.
That's the one you got up there. You wore Saturday.
No, that's a different one.
That's
a different. See what I mean with the problem?
Yeah.
These are ones I got at home. I'll bring them in and show you.
Let me
tell you, mate,
them.
moon boots.
Really?
Wow, these things are like I can't use them. They're massive.
Yeah.
So and then I changed and I bought a mega. I went the other way. I bought an ultra lightweight pair called the Antellos, I think they were called.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've heard of them.
And they're really good, really comfortable, really lightweight.
Yeah.
I will say the waterproofing could be improved after the Saturday the hike that we did.
I think we both. There's no amount. I mean, that was just torrential. But, this as Bry said on the weekend, if it's not raining, it's not training. So it was really good. But yeah, just to round off what Marky said there, Maindel Boutans weren't comfortable enough, so we went to the Scarpa GTX 4Ds, which I know a lot of Evertrekkers have used on EBC, Kili, Machu Picchu. They're great boots, those Salomons.
Yeah.
And if they fit from the glove and they feel right, I mean, you'll know if they're the right ones. But okay, so we've talked about fit, we've talked about sizing, we talked about the weather. I know we've touched on breathability, which was a big one as well, because I think that can be underrated if you're someone that has sweaty feet a lot. And I know it sounds disgusting, right? But I think if you're in the trekking world and you go to some of these places, you're gonna get sweaty feet. It's just part and par. It's par for the course. So something to think about, that if you are someone that runs hot and you're not necessarily wearing these, because if you do have like maybe 2 to 3 different ones, you've got maybe some trail shoes or approach shoes. Some people kind of go that way. Then people have like the next level up, which is kind of a kind of lightweight trekking boot, breathable. Then you've got the kind of top end of the trekking boot then, which is like the Maindel Boutans or the Mammut Trovat Mountain Guide, the Salomon 4s, Salomon GTX 4Ds. They're the kind of the all-rounders. But it's good to take these things into account because, if you go in like just this weekend, we had some Evertrekkers on Toubkal. They made the summit on Sunday, which was great. Some good friends of ours as well. And it was sort of 42 degrees in Marrakesh. Not as warm as that on Toubkal or trekking up to the refuge from Imlil. But again, it's warm. You don't necessarily need the big moon boots. Maybe the kind of in-betweens would be better at that point.
100%.
Because otherwise your feet are going to be soaked.
Exactly. I've got that down on my list, kind of in a way, which I put it as like construction, whether they're sort of leather, synthetic materials, that sort of thing. It is key, really. And also it changes the kind of the dynamic of the boot and things like that. I do know that, like, if you get a full grain leather boot, they're going to take some wearing in. The Maindel Boutan is unique because it does have that memory foam system on the inside. So the liner, the memory foam system on the inside means that it kind of works with your foot straight away. But the outer layer, the leather does still take some wearing in, but you don't notice because your feet aren't being torn up. But 100%, I think. Some people like one, some people like the other. To be honest, I use both. I've got leather boots and regular boots. I think if they fit and they feel comfortable, they're great. I love leather boots for like their insulation and things like that. So,
there's some good ones as well. I mean, Keita there mentions Altberg. They're quite wide. They are brilliant, Altberg. Lee Wyatt is Bry ex-army by any chance? How could you?
These
how do you know that,
boys can sort of they can sense it, can't they?
They know the words that you're taught. I get it.
Is it on a training weekend? If like they walk in before they say anything, they can kind of pick out who else has been through the military.
Isn't it? It's great though. It's great. But Jerome mentioned there, which is actually a really good one, and we're gonna because we've got one more on the list, and then we'll start answering some questions. But I really like this one. Yetis, have you or anyone else suffered a total boot disaster whilst on a trek? Something we can learn from. I know me and you have got a couple of different stories around this. I remember once that I think it was May 2021. Just come out of I hate using the words, but the lockdown in 2021. And it was actually, even though it was beginning of May, it was the first time we were able to get out in the mountains. We had some snow. So I wore B2 boots that I hadn't worn. I bought them online. And an hour into a 9-hour route that I'd chosen, I had blisters. And it's one of those where you just have to get on with it. I had a blister. I could feel it. By the end of the 9 hours, it was a deep blister, and I should have stopped really. But you just kind of get into the mode. It was a great day. Absolutely loved it. It was in North Wales. It was on the Carnegie mountain range, which is one of my favourites. It's always quieter than kind of the Snowdonia Erie National Park. It's always quieter than that area. But yeah, and that was kind of a big learn for me because I should have, those type of boots, they do need wearing in.
Yeah.
They actually do need thicker socks. But actually they weren't the right fit for me. And I should have worn them in and tried them on, and it's hard. But during the lockdown, I didn't have a chance.
Yeah,
you order them online. I kind of just went with it. I was so excited, and excitement kind of my heart lead my head in a way where it should have been the other way around. And I learned, and you know what? I actually, I even though I didn't like them, I thought I'd give them a second chance. I used them again on Toubkal, and after climbing Toubkal and coming back down, I gave them to the mountain guide. They weren't the right ones for me.
Yeah.
And I found a new home for them. And now I've got some kind of really great, those Equilibriums, the La Sportivas.
Yeah.
Same strength B2 boot that are so comfortable. Your recommendation?
Yeah.
I know they're quite popular now. I know Zach has used them on Witness Skills.
Well, I gave mine to Zach.
Oh, they're yours, are they?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Because they weren't quite right for me.
Yeah.
So I gave them to Zach.
You found a new home for them. But
I did.
What about you? Any boot disasters?
Yeah. La Sportiva, Trangos.
Yeah.
Great Glencoe Challenge. those are my.
Why was it a disaster?
Because I bought these sort of B2 boots, and I was really excited to wear them. I put them on, and they felt really comfy out the box.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do any walking in them. I just kind of did a, walking around the living room test.
Yeah, okay.
And I figured they'll be fine. I'm an experienced hiker. I know how to grind out a day. And the first checkpoint, I think 5 miles in, and I remember thinking, like, these feel like really hard underfoot.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll be honest, I had a couple of blisters for sure, but that wasn't the issue. It was how stiff and hard they were underfoot.
Yeah.
So my feet started aching. And I hate that more than blisters, more than anything else. If you get that ache in the soles of your feet.
It's hard, man.
And so every time you put your foot down, like with a blister, you can kind of put tape over it.
Yeah.
You can kind of double up on your socks. You can do whatever you can do. But once your feet are aching, and there was nothing I could do about it. So by mile 25, when I had one left to go, Andy will attest, I was moving like I was 95. It
was definitely entertaining, although I pulled my hamstring, so it was equally laughable.
I was glad that you did, because me and Andy were like, we were going all right. Andy pulled his hamstring, my feet were destroyed, and then we were in Group A, and then we noticed people in Group C kind of coming past us, but we were like, do you know what?
Swallow the pride.
We were never going to come first, so what's the point in rushing?
Yeah, we got around.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest disaster. And ever since then, I've learned that, if I'm going to test out a pair of boots, do them on a shorter trek first.
Not 26.
Not 26 and a half miles. I'm more than happy to have crazy bad feet after like a 3-4 miler, because I know that I've only got a few hours and I'll be done, and my feet will ache for a few hours and be done. My God, do you remember I walked barefoot into Cotswold Outdoors because I couldn't wear them? And I had to buy flip-flops and stuff. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Brilliant. Last one I've got here, and I think you've got it on. No, actually, you haven't. Wow. But I think it's important. I think Jerome's mentioned laces. Now, it seems a bit weird, doesn't it? Because you think, all the rest are probably more important than laces. But actually, whatever you use to kind of secure your boot, whether that's how you tie your laces. I know Dave's got kind of different way to myself. But I know a lot of people use Dave's way, and it works really well, because it keeps you locked in. Is to think about the laces, and sometimes there's not laces as well. Other, especially trail shoes, even though it's kind of sneaking into the kind of mountaineering boots now, they're using the boa kind of scenario where you basically tighten up. It hasn't got laces, it's got wire.
I like the boa.
Similar to the kind of like ski boots, and the way it's kind of it really locks you in. Because the technology is moving quite quickly now in the kind of trekking boot world. So it's important to think about those. And also as well, spare laces. I know we talked about the things a couple of weeks ago about things you think you might not need, but spare laces. But in terms of laces, you do get different types, don't you? The ones that are they have those little ridges that have more grip when you tie.
Some of them are stretchy.
Some of them are, they give a bit. So it's worth looking at, right?
To be honest, I don't mind what laces I got as long as they're long enough.
Okay.
Nice. Because when you've got quite excess length, you can kind of pull them and get them how you want them and hold them in position. Yeah. If you run out of lace, it's sort of a nightmare to kind of get the boot tied how you want. And a couple of brands that I've used before have had extra short laces. Yeah. The ones that I really like are the La Sportiva ones that came on those equilibriums, because one half of the lace is black and one half is yellow. I don't know why, but I just quite like that. So when you're looking at it, it just looks like a yellow zigzag going up.
It's foolproof.
Yeah, exactly. And
even for us fools.
Yeah, exactly. They're really good laces.
Great stuff.
But yeah, lacing, tying, securing the foot. If you Google best way to tie a hiking boot, you'll come up with about 10 different variations. I like the way that I do it because I feel like it attaches the boot in the right place. It doesn't, and it's secure, and my laces don't slip. I generally have to tie my laces once on any hike. I don't have to stop to retie.
And I feel my 5's done, but I feel like you might have some additional ones, Dave.
Bonuses. So Brucey bonus ones. So 2 things to consider. Yeah. One of them is weight. Yeah. Edmund Hillary said, a pound on the feet equals 10 on the back, or 5 on the back.
Okay.
So his emphasis was, if you want to avoid too much fatigue and then get a boot that's not necessarily like an ultra lightweight boot, but you don't have to go with a boot that's way too heavy for the purpose. So for instance, when I was doing the Glencoe challenge, there was absolutely no need for me to have this big, heavy, stiff B2 boot. It was irrelevant. And I probably wasted far more energy than I needed to. So when you're thinking about the weight of the boot as well, if you try on a boot and you know you're only going to be doing general hikes in it and it feels really heavy, perhaps try an alternative first, because it's not necessarily that beneficial to have a really heavy boot if it doesn't need to be. My other one is compatibility as well. So, you know, if you are going on a trip like Island Peak, Mera Peak, Aconcagua, you're going to be using crampons with those. And it's important to understand the rating system of boots, you know, B1, B2, B3. What that means is, broadly speaking, it's to do with the stiffness and the purpose of the boot. So a B3 boot is an ultra stiff technical mountaineering boot. A B1 is like a stiff hiking boot designed for a crampon. And then you've got C1, C2, and C3 crampons that go to the corresponding B1, 2, 3 boot. So yeah, those things are all important to consider.
Great stuff. Well, that's pretty much the bits. We'll go through some questions now, because I know we've had lots. Firstly, as well, Kate, thanks for Ed Vista's book recommendation last Tuesday.
Was that the K2 one? Yeah, really good.
Brilliant. Yeah, finished it in 3 days. Wow. They're addictive, aren't they, when you get these books?
That's a long book as well. 3 days is pretty good.
Fair dues.
Really good. I love that book because it tells the old story of the Italian team that did the first summit. And then obviously a pretty dangerous one that happened. Yeah, really good.
Is that what they named the Abruzzi Spur?
Yeah.
Because after the Italian group.
Yeah, exactly,
And then go through some questions. I know we've had, I think Jody is the Yeti doing the questions today. We'll spare. This is a really good one, actually. And I think Pratesh asked this one. Do you think it's wise to take a spare pair on a trip? I'm concerned about weight allowance. So I think Bethany also asked as well around doing base camp in November. Have a pair of Scarpas, but what about taking approach shoes? So essentially, there are similar questions about taking maybe another pair. And yeah, Dave, it's important, isn't it? I know something that we recommend is that if you do take like, you know, your main trekking boots, and then have something you can change into for the evenings.
Yeah. So I mean, we always
get out of those boots.
Exactly. So bringing approach shoes is great. A lot of people do trek in those things as well.
Yeah.
We got no real rule about whether you can or can't. We always recommend doing all your hiking in boots because they offer you that little bit of extra support. Now, if you're out on a local trip out in the Brecon Beacons or whatever, it's not the end of the world if you're going to roll an ankle and have to call it a day. Yeah. But if you're on like a once in a lifetime trip to Everest Base Camp and that happens, the effects are devastating. So it's all about small margins. And I just think that, doing that is absolutely fine. But if you do have your approach shoes, you can whip them off. You can put them on in the evenings and stuff like that and have something comfortable to walk around in.
It's good mentally as well, isn't it? Because, you know, if it's a beast of a day and on some of the treks, you know, it can be. And all you want to do is take your shoes off and rest your feet a little bit, maybe even take your socks off.
Yeah.
I know some people even bring like flip-flops or you bring sliders or Crocs just to air your feet a little bit. But yeah, I'm honestly, like something personally I do bring some approach shoes. If I'm walking around one of the villages, you know, wherever you are, whether you're in the Himalayas, the Andes, you know, in the Karakoram, it's nice to kind of just, even around camp, just have your some approach shoes or trail shoes.
You saw the benefit of my Crocs on the weekend, didn't you?
I did.
Because you left your spare bag at home.
I did.
And then when I got back to the car,
I did.
You saw the Crocs, and I saw the look in your eyes.
And I was like,
I'd have them.
So I drove home in my very wet,
squelchy, unbelievable.
But they need a new treatment. But really good questions, those. I hope that answers your question. Emily asked a good question as well. I'll bring this one in because I know this has kind of evolved over the last couple of years, because talking about Island Peak and the boots, do you recommend B2 or B3s? It's quite a big question because a lot of, you know, even a quick Google, a lot of companies recommend B2s. To be honest, we have as well. But generally, it is moving towards B3s because of the weather, just because you have that extra warmth. You could get away with it. We've had people climb Island Peak, Summit Island Peak and Mera in B2s. And this is in the spring and the autumn. But recently, there's been some bad weather.
Yeah.
And the guys have been saying, look, it's good to switch to B3s at the moment.
Yeah, I think that we're changing our mindset now to B3s. Now, in the spring, we used to say the B2s would be good enough.
Be fine,
But last spring was really cold. I think the effects of climate change are gradually taking the temperatures down. You know, I think that everything's going kind of haywire. Maybe the winters are becoming milder and the spring season's becoming colder. And actually, our thoughts are thinking that, do you know what? You don't want to be caught out by unseasonably cold weather in boots that aren't necessarily prepared for that. So yeah, I think B3s, you'll see other people wearing them. They're really good. They'll do you for Island Peak to Aconcagua to Elbrus,
beyond,
to Mont Blanc, all of that sort of stuff. So if you do have aspirations as well of doing more, they're a worthwhile investment.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, Emily. You got big plans over the next couple of years, mate. So yeah, I'd recommend, especially with your plans, definitely getting on the B3s.
Yeah.
The B3 train. Because we're going to Mera in November. So yeah, we'll be working on the using B3s on that.
Yeah.
Especially because we're kind of creeping into winter as well. It's a bit colder, and as Dave's right, like the weather's just getting a bit brutal out there. And if it does, they are heavier, the B3s. And again, it feels like you're wearing moon boots, but they're so rigid that, if you're wearing, you mentioned they're the 12-point crampons, and you clipped in, there's no flex at all. So it's almost, it can happen, but it's almost impossible for them to unclip, which can happen if you've got a less rigid boot. We've seen it before. But,
I had it on Tuco.
Did you?
Yeah, because I wore I brought my B2s with me.
Yeah.
But actually, when I put them on, I realized that they were going to be too stiff. Yeah. And they didn't fit me right, which is how they ended up in Zach's hands.
Right. Okay.
So I had to make a call, and basically, I wore my more flexible. They'd technically be a B0.
Nice.
And yeah, I found that like the crampon was moving around a lot.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of stop to like retighten it all the time, which is just a pain in the backside.
There's Mark Viggers. I know more of a comment in the question, but sorry, Mark Viggs. Last time you guys talked about boots, I just bought a pair of Adidas Terex. I said I'd let you know how they were. Absolutely brilliant. Well, great to feed back to the
awesome.
The community as well. That we've seen Adidas Terex quite a lot. I think Adidas, because of where it's come from, it used to be more of a sports kind of like similar to Nike kind of brand, but they make some good, really good trekking and mountaineering boots now.
Yeah.
Especially the Terex range. They've stepped it up in terms of their technology, so they're definitely becoming more trusted in the trekking world.
Yeah.
And it's great. And thanks, Viggs, for kind of letting us know, because although we'd love to test all these brands, we don't get access to all of them all the time. Like personally, I've got a lot. I know Dave has. I know some of the Yetis have got different makes, but yeah, it's great to get this kind of feedback.
Yeah.
And to anyone else as well, if you're using any kind of brands that are maybe a bit kind of, not the kind of well-known ones, or just ones that you found have worked for you, it'd be great for you to share these things.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear about it. So interesting question from Samantha Wright. I'm going to Island Peak. I need a boot for crampons. Do I hike in the boot for crampons or have a different pair for the early stages of the hike?
Yeah, good question.
I think when you're doing things like Island Peak and any big mountain, it's always best to bring a hiking pair and a mountaineering pair.
Yeah.
Like we've said, we recommend the B3 boot. But that is going to be almost impossible to hike in. It's going to be too stiff, too warm, and not very comfortable for the general trails and things that you're going to be on the lead up to Island.
Yeah.
So I reckon, you get in a normal pair and you just have to take the weight sacrifice as part and parcel of what it means to climb these mountains. I highly recommend bringing two pairs, a lightweight, flexible, general hiking pair of boots and also your mountaineering boots.
And Sam as well, right?
Yeah, and that's just we used to work together apparently. My old workmate.
Brilliant. Let's have a look. Lee Wyatt. Hey Lee, how you doing? Everest 3 passes while I only need B1 boots. Technically you don't need any crampons to go over the high passes. So 3 passes, you're going over Rendiola, Kongmela, and Chola Pass in the Everest region. Now there are times of the year where sometimes you might need some sort of grip because it's been bad weather or it's quite icy. It does change every season. Sometimes we've had people get over these passes without any form of you get like the yak tracks, the ones you can just put over your boot and just give you that extra bit of support. We'd say that you can bring them, but actually our guides do carry them. So if it does get a bit crazy, they'll share them around because they can go over any boot. Thinking about the B1, B2, B3s, I kind of would think that it going over the 3 passes, just think more about the trekking boot style rather than the kind of going into the B range, if that makes sense. Even though that they're classed as B1s, because essentially you can have a kind of a crampon that you can just kind of put over the boot. Hope that makes sense.
Yep.
But good question.
Jerome has said, pardon my ignorance, but what is an approach shoe?
Yeah, good question, actually.
So yeah, an approach shoe is a term used for basically a trekking shoe, not a boot. And it comes from, you would wear that on the approach to a climb, and then you'd switch over to your climbing boots when you were actually on it.
Yeah.
So that's all it means. Generally, an approach shoe is just, it's a shoe, not a boot. You'll see like Salomon. You've had hundreds of pairs of them.
I love the approach shoes. Yeah, I mean, for me, the approach shoes were very similar to trail shoes, but I don't think they're quite at the level that you could do a trail run in. They're more, you get trail boots that have the superior grip, and they've got kind of a curve at the front, so it looks like they're more like running. Where approach shoes, they kind of have the front of it, you've got kind of that flat edge, so they look a bit more kind of suited to the more relaxed walk. Maybe you could wear them around the office, around the house type thing, but you could also use them, whilst on a trek in the villages, just walking around. So it's personal preference really, with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And approach shoes tend to be a bit more visually better than the trail shoes. So if anyone that likes the look of their shoes, approach shoes are a bit more kind of, sweet on the eye, if that makes sense. So like you get like Vans, they got that curved front. Anyone that's into that kind of style, approach shoes are more like that, I would say. But yeah, good question though. Matt Oliver asked a really good question as well. Hey Matt, how you doing? Some really good comments today, mate. Where's your comment around? There we go. Around the hire of boots, because essentially when you're climbing Island Peak, we realize that buying these boots, especially if you go on Island Peak and we're recommending B3s, there can be a big outlay. You can hire them. There are some caveats when we talk about hiring, because it's possible, but I think you just got to take into account that they have been used. They're not going to be the exact fit. Like we've talked about fit a lot today. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be tailored to you, so they might not be that they might get you through, but they won't be the best. That you're able to hire, because you've got to remember where you are. You're in Shukung, which is a little village in the Himalayas. Now they have got a lot of gear because Island Peak is quite popular. So they do have it there, but it's not like you're not like walking into a big store where you can choose different types of boots. It's kind of what's available is there for you.
It's not like sort of renting skis. You can't. Unfortunately, you can't go into a shop and be kitted out with something.
They haven't got the infrastructure yet.
Exactly. Really. So we highly recommend people bring their own.
Yeah,
it's a worthwhile investment. To make sure that you've got the right boots on your feet when you actually take the climb. Andy's right. Fit. If they don't fit quite right, generally there's not a lot of alternatives. They start off brand new, but then they're used by multiple people. So it depends on, where you pick them up on their lifespan, whether or not they're great or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we always recommend these days actually bringing your own mountaineering boots for these peaks, because peace of mind, security, fit, all of the things we discussed are things that you've gone through, so they're the right boot. You're not just rolling the dice.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you might get away with it. A lot of people do, because these where we hire them from, like they're not ours. They're from the village, and the actual tea houses and the lodges that are based there. They have it there because they realise there's a need for them. Like they also have some oxygen there as well if it's needed. If it gets to that stage, we're likely taking you out of there anyway. But they do have sort of backup emergency stuff there if needed. Because of where you are. You're not miles away from Everest.
Really. Exactly. No,
good question.
Quite close. Tracy Parker Moisley has said,
hey Tracy, how you doing?
Moisley, sorry. So I was literally walking out the door to test out some Salomon Quest GTX. Would they make your list? 100%.
Absolutely.
Really good boots. There was a time when they were probably the most popular hiking boot you'd see on any trail. I know I've not owned a pair.
I've had a pair. Years ago.
But I know loads of people that have, and they swear by them. They're one of those brands that those that love them and say, fresh out the box, they were comfortable, no wearing in, like slippers. They're a really good boot.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we've got about 10 minutes now. We've got a few more questions. Now you may have seen that we're doing a recent giveaway on Facebook. So definitely get yourself in there to win 2 places to Machu Picchu. I know we've had a lot of the community already jump on. But Jody, if you can add the link into the comments. I know a lot of you have already, and a lot of you have been sharing.
She had that ready.
She's on it, man. She's
had that ready.
Absolutely on it. Definitely get yourself in. We've got the announcement a week today. We'll be talking all about Machu Picchu. Obviously, we launched about 3 years ago our Tomokaea route, but this one's actually for the Inca Trail as well. So very famous. I know on the Tomokaea we go on parts of the Inca Trail, but this is the classic route. There's a lot of people that choose to go on that route with us as well. Even recently, and it's absolutely fantastic place to visit. So yeah, jump on that. Give it a chance. I know Bry's got a speech he's been planning for about 3.5 years. And there's definitely plenty of opportunities for you there. I know Jerome is on. He's sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. It is incredible. You're right, Jerome. I see you nabbed some of our copy there.
Yeah.
Loving it, Jerome. Again, we respect a good pun.
Yeah, 100%.
So go for it, mate. There's not to alarm you, but there's more puns that you can get out there. I know. I had to respond.
I'll pack them my bags, mate.
Wow. These weren't rehearsed.
No.
Definitely. But yeah, get yourself involved with that. It's we've done this over the last kind of 5-6 years worth of competitions, and it's always great sort of engagement for the community to get involved.
Talking about Jodie, she had some vaccinations this morning for kidney
Oh
transplant.
yeah. Jodie, how you feeling? I hope you're well. I know she's listening. She's working from home today, but I hope the vaccination. She's going to Killy in October with our musical Yeti Zach.
She's getting in a lot of training as well. She did a 10-mile hike on the weekend.
Did she?
Yeah, started out as a 5-miler, and then I think she left her key at the top.
She did say about that. She had to walk all the way back up.
She had to walk all the way back up. Yeah,
brilliant.
And she said yesterday, she said she went a bit off piste, and there was a section where she had to like slide down on her ass to kind of get down to the path, and she was going back up. Wow. I thought, oh god, I'm gonna have to do that again. So I actually slid down again.
Imagine that. I wonder. Let's all give Jodie a big 10. Well done, because I think if any of us have done that, imagine doing a hike, coming down and not having your keys and thinking, geez, I got to go back.
Yeah,
that takes a lot of you got to dig deep when that happens. So well done, Joes.
I'd have left the car there. That'd have been it.
I would have got a call. Come and give me a lift.
I'd have just sacked it off and just gone home. Said, and there's keys up there. You can keep the car if you want.
See, I can't talk. I accidentally left a pair of Oakleys on a mountain once.
Yeah,
but it was the day before Glencoe Challenge. We wanted to just warm up and do something the day before.
Yeah,
but
I didn't.
I left them on the mountain. I feel bad.
Yeah,
well, because I ran down and then realised I dropped them.
Yeah, but I think a nice little mountain gift for the next person.
Well, this is it, because apparently they weren't there the next day, so I know that someone had them. So at least they were used.
Yeah,
which is always good.
Jodie said it's all training.
That is great mindset to have. Well done, Jodie.
Yeah.
Right, just some questions then. What else have we got? Because I think Pratesh actually really good. Just to jump in whilst we're talking about links, is talking about the winter skills that we do in Scotland. So yeah, we do have some dates actually. If Jodie can share the link to the winter skills, you should be able to book on to that date for I believe it's January next year. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We had a couple of those courses go at the beginning of this year. I was on them. Zach was on them. Absolutely brilliant courses, and you learn some key skills there. I know Lee mentioned. It's fun, doing the self-arrest with ice axe, and that's just a small part of it. But it's absolutely fantastic to get those skills, and they'll help you, give you confidence, make you make better choices and better decisions in the mountain, which is what it's all about.
So normally, the first part of it is you wake up in the morning, open the curtains. If you see snow, close them again.
Is that your first decision?
Yeah. Text Andy and tell him you've got a headache. And no, I love the snow.
I was going to say it's like Christmas when that happens.
I love the snow. I love storm conditions.
Yes.
What I really don't quite like is just when it's raining. No wind, just rain.
Well, you still went outside, eh?
Yeah, well, that was storm conditions.
That was storm conditions.
The thing is, though, you did an Andy forecast, which was, the rain's not due to come in till 2. We'll be down by then. 40 minutes in.
No, I said it came in when it came in, which was 11.
Oh, it was 11, was it? Yeah, I must have just heard one.
We were just running a bit late.
You know what's sad is that I had my waterproof trousers in my bag, but I thought, I can't be bothered to put them on. 5 minutes later, it was too late, and I should have done.
Brilliant. Well, look, I mean, just to round off, really, what we're talking about today, because there are a lot of things to consider when buying boots. I know we talked about 5, probably a few more. And sometimes it is an individual thing. You've got to get out there. You've got to go and look at what's right for you. Also, what your budget you've got as well. Yeah. Oh, okay. Jody, we will definitely get that out. We'll get the link for everyone. We'll put it in the groups, probably best. So when it is ready, we'll put it in the group, and then you guys can get in for that as well. So yeah, going back to the boots, you just got to think about the things that we've talked about today. Hopefully that helps you when it comes to it. But look at what your budget is. Look at what you're planning to do the next few years. In terms of trips, in terms of types of weather. Dave talked a lot about compatibility on certain times of year, whether you need them for crampons, also as well, whether they're the bomb-proof weighty ones or whether they're lightweight. I think there's some good stuff to consider there.
Yeah, 100%. I think the more and more time goes on, you know, boots are becoming more of a bit of it's like navigating a minefield to try and find the right ones. It is trial and error. Sometimes you will make a mistake and you'll just have to bite the bullet, sell them for as much as you can and get the best pair next time. Gone are the days when you walked into a store, generic brown hiking boots, thank you, dubbing, ready, okay. And whether they fit good, whether they hurt, it didn't matter because that was your only choice. Now there is a lot of choice. If you put the effort in early, do your research, try them on, do all those kind of checks that you need to do, you'll end up with an awesome pair that'll last you years. All
right, great stuff. Well, look, hope that's been useful. I said we'll be back next week to announce the winner of the Machu Picchu competition. So make sure you join that. We always have a good turnout. It's always good energy, good vibe, and good luck to everyone that enters that competition. And obviously, we'll be talking about Machu Picchu. We'll be talking about South America in more detail. Hope that was useful, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome,
lovely.
Bye, guys. Later. Bye.
See ya.
You're gonna boot them.